every business has some form of intellectual property. Whether the business is a one-person sole proprietorship or a multi-million-dollar company, there is intellectual property in that business. Now, there are different types of businesses, and there are different forms of intellectual property. And different businesses will have different forms of intellectual property. For example, a technical company has a different form of intellectual property than a restaurant would have. A service business would have a different form of intellectual property than a retail store. But whether you have a technical company, a retail store, a service business, there's one form of intellectual property that is common to every form of business. And that form of intellectual property is a business identifier or a business name. Now, the business identifier is what is used to distinguish your business from another business. Your business name, logo, whatever it may be, but it is used to distinguish your business from another business. The consumer uses that name or logo to identify and distinguish the source of your goods or services from someone else. Now, when we think about intellectual property, a lot of times you think about patents and sophisticated ideas, technical research and breakthroughs. You may think about brand names and trademarks, or you may think about artistic works such as music and movies. And those are intellectual property. But there are other forms of intellectual property as well, as can be shown here, such as client lists, websites, marketing materials, event names, training materials, internal business processes. All of those are intellectual property, and each business has some form of intellectual property, and they should manage it and understand what they have, because intellectual property is a valuable commercial asset. For example, intellectual property increases the worth of a company. Intellectual property is an additional asset with value, so that that increases the value of your company. Intellectual property helps a business establish a competitive advantage in the marketplace, because if you have certain intellectual property that you protect, then you can control who else can use it, who else can make it, use it, or sell it, and that gives you an advantage over your competitors. It strengthens you in negotiations. Now, that's primarily for large companies, but it'll strengthen you in negotiations, whereas it's an asset that you can use during negotiating. Intellectual property is a revenue generator, because some companies license their intellectual property to others for a fee. So a company will pay you a fee to use your intellectual property, which generates revenue for you. For example, IBM for years got more patents than any other company in the United States. They didn't make products for every patent that they got, but they licensed a lot of this technology to other companies who paid them royalties. So they used their patents and the intellectual property as a product line to generate revenue. Intellectual property helps you in marketing. You see patent pending and the patent number on certain products. You see the trademark labels. These are all used in marketing to help legitimize the products. Intellectual property and protecting it helps you avoid using someone else's intellectual property without the authorization. Because you go through the process of protecting it, you may discover that someone else created this before you did. You weren't aware of it, but they already own rights to it. And intellectual property can increase opportunities for you to receive business funding. Now, this is a lot of times for small businesses where if you're investing in your own intellectual property, other investors will see that you're committed to that, and they will invest in it as well. So these are some of the benefits of having intellectual property. And like I said, intellectual property is available and every business has it. And I always say, if a large corporation can spend millions of dollars protecting their intellectual property, every business at least should investigate their business activities and see what intellectual property they have and see what is the best way to manage and protect it. Because every business has intellectual property. Now, my name is Darcel Walker, and I'm an intellectual property attorney with over 30 years of experience helping people protect their intellectual property. And we have this app called the Huemind app, Huemind, and it is available in the App Store. Now, this app helps you determine the appropriate protection for your intellectual property, because not one size fits all. There are different forms of intellectual property, and there are different protections for each one. So, as I said, every business, whether you're a large corporation or a sole proprietorship, has intellectual property, and you should take precautions to invest in, manage, and protect it.